Okay, unfortunately, we can't see you in person, so we've provided a little bit of information about what the biology AS and A level course encompasses. Okay, so firstly, what will you be studying and what can you do with a biology A level? Okay, so there are many potential careers that you can do with a biology A level. Can open up a wealth of career paths. Particular jobs that have a biological aspect to them and focus: medicine and healthcare, science and research, agriculture, sport, fitness, and education, as well as many applicable skills that you can get for use in many different sectors as well. Okay, in terms of the content within the course, you have 2 units within the AES level. These are assessed normally at the end of the year in terms of examinations. Unit 1 is basic biochemistry and cell organisation. It covers the topics of biological molecules, cells, enzymes, and cell division. And we'll have a little bit of a look at the breakdown of those in a little bit. Unit 2, biodiversity, physiology of body systems. So it covers the biodiversity of different organisms, adaptations that those organisms have, and particular focus upon these adaptations for gas exchange, transport, and nutrition. Okay, here's an overview of the course structure. You can see this actually has AS and A level on it here, but I'll focus in particular initially on Unit 1 and Unit 2. So Unit 1, as we said, is the basic biochemistry cell structure. It's a 90-minute exam and it's worth 80 marks. This encompasses 20% of the whole qualification. You have the same sort of ratio for Unit 2, biodiversity and physiology of body systems. There's a slight weighting, you can see that comes up to a total of 40%. So the A2 level makes up the remaining 60% there. Unit 3 and Unit 4, energy, homeostasis and the environment, variation, inheritance and options, which I'll talk about in a little bit, are worth 50% of the course. A little bit more of the marks are can be gathered here, and they're each 2-hour exams, so they're pretty hefty. You will notice as well there is a practical examination which takes place in year 13 worth 10% of the grade, and I'll go through what that kind of evolves in a bit. Okay, so a little bit more detail about each of the units here. So as was discussed in the previous slide, Unit 1 is basic biochemistry and cell organisation. In terms of what you'll be studying, you'll be looking at the different biomolecules, carbohydrates, proteins and lipids. You'll be looking at the structure of the cell and how they're organised in terms of the organelles and the structures within them. Cell membranes and transport, so you'll be familiar with your old friends diffusion, active transport and osmosis, they come back. Biological reactions regulated by enzymes, so this is a very important aspect of all biology. Nucleic acids and their functions, a new part, and I think a lot of you are quite interested in terms of actually the genetic information and how that's passed on. The second unit, biodiversity and physiology of body systems. This is quite a an anatomy and physiology focused aspect of the course. We have a little bit of biodiversity in terms of all organisms related through their evolutionary history, and then expanding upon the topics that you learned in year 10 of your GCSE course, adaptations for gas exchange, transport, and nutrition. Okay, in terms of year 13 then, Unit 3, you start with energy, homeostasis, and the environment. You look at the role of ATP, which you initially started in year 12, in a little bit more detailed and with an implied context in terms of photosynthesis and respiration. You will learn that photosynthesis and respiration are not that simple one line of reaction that you learnt in year 10, and actually there are many, many enzyme catalyzed reactions there. So you learn that in quite a bit of detail. You'll go on to microbiology. You'll do a little bit of biodiversity there as well, population size and ecosystems, the human impact on the environment, and then about homeostasis, the kidneys, and the nervous system. Unit 4, a very interesting unit that we've got here, variation, inheritance, and I will talk about what these options are as well. So we'll look at sexual reproduction in plants and humans, inheritance, so all the genetics underlying those, variation, evolution, and how we can actually use this knowledge in terms of our application of reproduction genetics. You will note as well, so the practical exam is Unit 5, the 10% of the entirety of the grade. This has an experimental task and a practical analysis task. So I'm going to initially focus on variation, inheritance, options, and then the next slide I'll go on to is the practical examination. Okay, So Unit 4 is actually broken down a little bit further. So we've got the topics that we discussed before, but you can see out of the 90 marks that's available for the exam, 70 marks are actually for variation inheritance. 20 marks, however, is an options that you can choose from, and there are 3 options available. Option A, immunology and disease. Option B, human musculoskeletal anatomy. And lastly, option C, neurobiology and behaviour. Okay, the last unit, so this is something that we prepare for and undertake in year 13, is the practical examination. This unit will assess your practical skills developed over the duration of the course. So you will have a number of different specified practicals. You must still understand those practicals, and there are, a number of different practical questions within AS and A2 that you might have within your exams. However, now you could be called upon to actually act out any of those practicals that you've had across the 2 years. It's made up of 2 tasks which will be completed on set dates in the spring term of the second year study. Currently this year, this exam has been cancelled due to social distancing measures. Hopefully for your studies, this will be something you'll be able to do. So it's split into two components which aren't quite equal. The experimental task, so you actually doing the experiment, is worth 20 marks and takes 2 hours. You'll be given a set of apparatus, a paper containing a method to follow. You'll carry out the investigation and analyse and evaluate that data within that session. The second bit, which normally takes place a few days later, is the practical analysis task. It's got a high proportion of the marks, so it's worth 30 marks, and you have 1 hour. You'll be provided with experimental data to analyse. The task will also include the theoretical assessment of microscope skills. So these are skills that you start to develop in year 12, and you'll use throughout the entirety of your course, but you will definitely be tested on them within the practical analysis task as well.